Thank you so much for coming today on my presentation, my action research presentation for CED637, Response to Intervention. Just a little bit of background. I did my action research project in a suburban middle school in California Central Valley of about 1,000 students. They have a low socioeconomic population of 39.5%, EL population of 4.6%, and 13.5% students with disabilities. And I conducted it in the 6th grade, and the 6th grade has a population of about 260 students. And so the study is important because many students are not reaching their full academic potential. They're struggling learners, they don't learn in a linear fashion, and they don't learn at the same rate. So DeFore, Eaker, and many state that some students will require a great opportunity to learn, and they will need more time and more support than others. And the most effective schools are the schools that ensure that they receive this support. And so that is why we have the importance of the response to intervention. So establishing the program. Response to intervention works in tandem. That means it works with the professional learning community, otherwise known as the PLC. And within the PLC, we focus on the 4 essential questions. What do we want our students to learn? Well, that would be our state standards, our Common Core state standards. How will we know when they've learned it? That will be our CFAs, our Common Formative Assessments. How are we going to respond when they haven't learned it? And how are we going to respond when they have? And that would be our intervention program and enrichment program as well. So what does the response to intervention program look like? It's a 3-tier process. And the first tier services about 75 to 80% of the students are going to be successful in the bottom tier. And this is this year's material. Tier 2 will help about 10 to 15% of the students, and this is help with also this year's material. Tier 3 is going to be 5 to 10%, and this is going to be material from previous years or gaps in their education. It's a fluid process, and students move through tiers 1, 2, and 3 based upon their needs, as well as based upon data. So we have the statement of the problem, and the problem is that basically, as I said before, that students aren't receiving the support that they need in a timely manner. Nor are they receiving a systematic intervention program at all. Therefore, students are being left out, and they're not reaching their academic success. So my hypothesis is that it's my belief that the RTI program will have a positive effect on students' academic as well as their motivation to do better in school. So my research questions are, does an effective RTI program have a positive impact on student academic achievement? And does an effective RTI program have a positive effect on student motivation towards academic achievement? So basically, are they going to do well academically, and then are they going to work towards, be motivated to work towards doing better in school? So our definition of terms. These are the characteristics of a response to intervention program. RTI program is targeted, systematic, directive, administered by professionals, timely, and research-based. So we're going to target specific gaps. We're going to tell students that this is non-negotiable, they're doing this. We're going to have professional people administering the RTI process. It's going to be timely, not too late in the game, and it's going to be based on research as well as data. For my literature review, I used the ERIC search engine, and I typed in the keywords response to intervention and response to intervention with student motivation. And the big key ideas that came back were that there's more than one RTI model, and then the purpose of the response to intervention program as it's changed over the years. The organization and implementation of the RTI model has changed in part by the purpose of the program itself too. So RTI has been around for a while. Kaplan in 1964 described the 3 levels as primary, secondary, and tertiary, and later they were known as universal, selective, and indicative. But now we use evidence to drive this process. In 2004, the IDA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, was passed, and this allows for additional opportunities for teachers to identify students for special education. So no longer do kids just have to be tested for special education. they can be identified through other means like an RTI program. Other relevant theoretical research, Bloom's, he indicates that in order for all students to achieve mastery, that some students must be given additional time and support, just as Dufour, Eager, and Manny had said. Edmonds' 7 characteristics of highly effective schools. He ranks an RTI program as being the second most effective characteristic of a highly effective school. Little did some research, and with Little's research, they found that with the IDEA Act, that's changed the role of the psychologist. 76% of participants in another study indicated they found supporting implementation of the RTA process within the PLC process as being very or extremely helpful, so they work really well together. And Hall and Mahoney's research revealed that teachers and administrators do not always know the appropriate steps of the RTI process, nor do they know who the key individuals are. Some more research. Another study revealed that the academically fragile students who were fast-tracked to Tier 3 to receive intensive support had a statistically higher reading scores in the spring than the typical wait-to-fail model. So we have the two models, the wait-to-fail, or they give the diagnostic test and will fast-track you. And so kind of deciding which one is best to use, and they're finding that why wait until someone fails? Why not just fast-track them? And they were able to get higher reading scores. So research is suggesting that there's no reason to delay intervention. So what does the research suggest regarding research-proven RTI instructional practices? One study found had a high success rate using technology. Another study had high success rate using literacy strategies. And a third study with EL students had success rate using metacognitive strategies as an intervention. So there's some research-proven instructional practices that are out there. So implications for practice. RTI is not a clear model, nor is it a clear process. In fact, between the different levels, the lines between the tiers can be kind of fuzzy, and sometimes they're not necessarily just solely in Tier 2 or Tier 3. They kind of have one foot in one and one foot in the other. So there's a lack of understanding and communication of the roles and responsibilities. The level of success depends upon how well it's organized. So if we have a lack of understanding and the success depends upon how well it's organized, we're going to have to really kind of shore that up and straighten that up so that kids are more successful. RTI is more efficient if it's part of the PLC process, and professional development opportunities need to be given to all stakeholders so that we can understand all parts of the RTI process and how it's organized and who the key players are. Further inquiries will need to be made in the following areas: determining the most effective RTI model, determining the ideal RTI process, data collection and analysis to identify RTI students, and creating and crafting reliable and valid common formative assessments. Because sometimes we give students assessments, and really are we getting reliable and valid data out of it? And then we're placing students in programs based upon these CFAs that may not be reliable or valid. Okay, so I conducted, as I said, my study in a 6th grade classroom. It was in math. I used non-equivalent control groups. That means I used one math teacher with 2 different periods, so 2 different groups of students. He had his students 3 days a week for 45-minute sessions in the intervention, and he focused on the Common Core Math Content Standard 6EEA.3, which is applying properties of operations to create equivalent expressions. I conducted a mixed research project with both quantitative and qualitative data. For the quantitative data, I administered a pre-intervention and post-intervention assessment. I used the t-test method to analyze the data. I also conducted teacher and student surveys. For qualitative data, I did observation and field journals, and I conducted teacher and student interviews. So the benefits of this action research project include that students will receive an intervention in math, and that we will be able to identify whether students are successful academically with an RTI program, and if they also increase their motivation towards academic success with an RTI program. The disadvantage is that not all students receive the math intervention program, and some students may need it that didn't receive it, and some students may have received it that didn't need it. And this action research project will add to the existing body of knowledge on the response to intervention program. So here are the data results for the pre-intervention assessment. In the middle we have the intervention group. I had 13 students. Their mean or the average was 39.92 on the pre-assessment, and the standard deviation is 16.39. The non-intervention group, I had 15 students. Their mean was 52, and their standard deviation was 19.35. On the post-intervention assessment, we had the same amount of students, but the mean increased from almost 40 to almost 60 for the intervention group. And for the non-intervention group, it went from 50 to 78.67. And then we have the standard deviations there as well. So we'll analyze the data in a moment, but you can see that the intervention group, both groups increased, but the intervention group did not reach that of the non-intervention group. With the student survey results, most or all students responded positively, meaning they strongly agreed or agreed that the intervention helped them to better understand their math work. 85.7% of them stated that it motivated them to try harder in math, and 85.7% of them said that it was engaging and motivated them to stay on task. 57% said that they were better math students as a result of the intervention class. And again, these are the student surveys. The teacher survey, teachers strongly agreed that the intervention class helped the students to better understand the math work. The teacher neither agreed nor disagreed that the math intervention class motivated the students to try harder. The teacher strongly agreed that the math intervention class was engaging and motivated the students to stay on task. And the teacher agreed that the students are better math students as a result of the intervention class. The interviews, the post-intervention student interviews, students stated that the intervention class helped them to become better math students. They pointed to strategies and tools such as MobyMax, whiteboards, group work, posters, worksheets as helpful tools, as well as extra time and support. And they stated that the success from the intervention class motivated them to try harder. The teacher interview, the teacher agrees that the intervention helped the students become better as well as understand their math work, and also points to whiteboards and MobyMax as effective instructional tools. The teacher said that these were particularly effective because he was able to spot right away as to where the problems were and help those students on the spot instead of being a less timely intervention. The teacher states the extra time and support equated to student academic success, and success is a motivating factor. The teacher creates a classroom that's very high-paced and engaging, and the teacher stated that the old view of response to intervention wasn't working, where students tried to to get out of the intervention class to get into the fun enrichment class. Well, that wasn't working, and so the students weren't working to get out of intervention, so he's trying really hard to make the intervention class to be less like an intervention. Teacher also stated that direct instruction on a few specific skills during the lesson as a means to attaining student engagement and on-task behavior. So as I stated, I went in and did some classroom observations. I did 4 observations for 45 minutes each, and we can see that they have very high engagement. The first observation, they had an 88.89% engagement rate. I did that over 6 random periods. The second one, 91% over 5 random periods. The third observation, 91.2% over 7 random periods. And the fourth observation, 81.2% over 8 random periods. So So he has a really high student engagement rate. They were all on task. So we have some limitations of the study. That would be the sample size. We had 13 students in the intervention and 15 in the non-intervention. The time that was 4 weeks. The survey validity, I felt that maybe, and as well as the interview validity, I felt that maybe there was a possibility that students were worried that their teacher was going to see the information or be told the information and maybe had skewed the results in the positive so as to not hurt the teacher's feelings, or also vice versa, as well as the external validity. Just because something works in one environment doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in another environment. So now we have the data, let's take a look at what it all means. So we'll do it question by question. The first question was, does an effective RTI program have a positive impact on student academic achievement? Well, I'm going to point to the assessment mean, and the assessment mean, they never got to the intervention group didn't get to the non-intervention group level, but they did actually receive the same, if not more, growth. And so they grew, the intervention class grew over 54%, where the non-intervention class grew over 53%. And one could say, well, that's not much difference. Did they really need that? But I'm wondering if they hadn't had the intervention, how much they truly would have grown. And so that might be a question we actually don't really know. The student survey data, overwhelmingly, the majority of the students reported that they felt they understood their math work better as a result of the intervention and that they were better math students. And the teacher survey data, the teacher reported that students were better math students and they understood their math work better as a result of the intervention. The student interview data, the students reported higher comprehension levels in math. The students did have difficulty when I asked them to elaborate or explain, they had some difficulty kind of citing some examples to support their claims. But they really did point to the extra time and support. That came up over and over, as well as the strategies I mentioned of the MobyMax, the worksheets, the posters, the peer assistance, and the group collaboration. Those ideas came up over and over. They pointed to those as being very helpful. So our other research question was, does an effective RTI program have a positive effect on student motivation towards academic achievement? The observation notes point to really high student engagement rate. The post-intervention student survey data, overwhelmingly majority of the students believe that the intervention class motivated them to try harder in math. And overwhelmingly majority of the intervention students reported that the intervention class was engaging and motivated them to stand on task. The interview data, students reported higher levels of motivation towards academic achievement. Students did have, again, difficulty in pointing to those particular strategies that increased their motivation to learn. And several students pointed to the fact that the extra time and support helped them increase their understanding. They tried harder and received higher grades. One student stated, when I understand it, it makes me want to try harder. And another student stated, I doubted myself that I couldn't, and then I tried harder and focused and got more math, and focused more and got math. The teacher survey data was split on this issue, and so the teacher neither agreed nor disagreed that the students increased their motivation to learn, or as well as try harder. And the teacher interview data, the teacher did point to the fact that the students did attain academic success by achieving growth and stated success was a motivating factor to learn. So in closing, it appears that the response to intervention program does have a positive effect on student academic achievement. However, it's really still unclear as to whether it has a positive impact on student motivation to achieve academic success. So we'll need more research in that area. And so the implications for teaching and supervision is that we need professional learning communities to be established. We need to run the RTI program through the PLC. Classroom instructional practices in the Tier 1 need to be strengthened. Intervention instructional practices need to be grounded in research and engaging. And teachers need to be provided with professional development opportunities to strengthen their instructional practices throughout all three tiers. And teachers need a clear understanding of the RTI process as well as creating, administering, and analysis of CFAs. We need to identify and employ those instructional practices that yield the high levels of academic achievement. We need to identify and employ instructional practices that encourage students to be engaged in learning and motivate them to increase their own academic achievement. Areas of ideal elements of the logistics of the RTA process need to be researched, such as what is the ideal size of the intervention group? What is the ideal amount of minutes in an intervention class? What's the ideal amount of days in an intervention should occur? The ideal amount of instruction and activities to keep the students engaged in the lesson, and the most effective ways to streamline the RTA process through the PLC process. As well as who are the critical stakeholders who are to be involved in the PLC and RTI process. And a few of my references if you are so curious. And that is all. Do you have any questions?
Well, is the whole school participating in the RTI process or just this teacher?
At that site, it is not a streamlined process. At that site, there are pockets of intervention, and it is this teacher and the partner teacher. Yeah. It is not the entire grade level, nor is it even the entire school.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, I thought it was great. Very interesting data.
Well, thank you. I will point out, though, that next year that the district is thinking about doing RTI process, having it a very streamlined process throughout the district. So it should be rolled out completely everywhere. So that might